The operation that brought the world's most wanted man to justice was pulled off by some of America's most elite servicemen. A team of Navy SEALs stormed into Osama Bin Laden's compound in Pakistan, killed the terror leader, and left with his body and a trove of al-Qaeda's secret documents. The pre-dawn raid lasted less than an hour, but it must have felt much longer at the White House. The president, along with his national security team, watched the strike unfold in real time. At one point, one of the helicopters carrying the SEALs had to be abandoned, throwing the already risky operation into uncertainty. But counterterrorism advisor John Brennan says the team had already planned for problems.
You can imagine that for something as important as this and something as risky as this, every effort would be made to do the practice runs, understand the complexities and the layout of the compound. There were multiple opportunities to do that in terms of going through the exercises to prepare for it so that once they hit the compound, they had already simulated that a number of times.
For more now, we are joined from Washington by up-to-the-minute military analyst Mitch Mitchell. Thanks for being with us, Mitch.
Thanks, Betty. Good morning.
Good morning. This is just so fascinating. I want you to explain, if you can, what went into this mission, the training, the backup plans, the logistics.
One of the characteristics of Special Operations Forces is their training. They make sure that they leave no stone unturned. The training is so detailed you can hardly believe how much the effort they put into it. In this case, they had many months, not quite a year, but they had many months to train on mock-ups in the United States and to go through all the plans and procedures that they would use. And in addition to that, they then moved into contingency plans, which are plans for the what-ifs. What if this happens? What should we do? And if this happens, what should we do? They had a plan for if a helicopter went down inside the compound, which it did, they simply switched over to plan B and moved on with the mission as if nothing happened, because they were that well trained. You train for as many contingencies as are possible, and you use good intelligence to give you those ideas of what might happen and what might go wrong.
Yeah, the what ifs, as you call it. Well, this was a high-risk mission, so what if it hadn't succeeded? What would the fallout have been? I can only begin to imagine.
Well, I can guarantee you that when you have an operation like this, you have strong backup. You have rescue forces, you have medical evacuation forces. The air cover itself wasn't even visible to anyone, but you have high-performance jets up high, you have command and control aircraft, electronic warfare aircraft, you have intelligence aircraft, both manned and unmanned, and you have backup aircraft, which of course they had to use on this mission because they had to destroy one of their aircraft. So they had backups in place, but you don't want to see a mission go wrong because that's usually a signal that there are going to be casualties. In this case, we got very lucky and had none.
Well, Pakistan's military and government was kept out of the loop. So how were American forces able to get so far into Pakistani territory without being detected?
Well, we're operating out of Afghanistan. That's one thing. We're operating out off our carriers, so we have the ability to fly to the target. The other thing about that is we did it by ourselves because we could. And frankly, we didn't trust certain allies, and Pakistan was number one on the list of do not trust. We would have trusted our NATO allies with the information, but the Pakistanis had proven themselves unreliable. We didn't trust them. We informed them after we had completed the mission, and even then it was a close call because they scrambled their high-performance jets. Lucky we didn't have an incident out there.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about Guantanamo and other detention sites. Shift to that now because they played a key role in locating Bin Laden. The CIA was able to get the name of Bin Laden's courier from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who is perhaps the most notorious prisoner at Guantanamo Bay. Is this vindication for those who supported keeping the prison open?
I think so. You know, one of the tough parts about being in the intelligence field is you can't tell people what you're doing and what successes you have. And here for years, they had been tracking the couriers for Osama bin Laden and couldn't tell the people who were trying to close Guantanamo, we're really onto something. We've got good intelligence that's quickly going to become actionable intelligence if you let us do our jobs. But unfortunately, they operate in a dark world where they're not allowed to tell what they're doing. So that made their job all the more difficult. Fortunately, they were able to find these guys, pinpoint them, and get to Osama and look at the end result.
Valid point there. All right, up to the minute military analyst Mitch Mitchell in Washington for us. Thanks for being with us, Mitch.
Thanks for having me, Betty.